This is Gemara Nazir Daf Yud Zayin, and we're holding on the bottom of Tes Zayin Omid Beis. Just to quickly review the machlokes, we're in the middle of discussing a machlokes Rav Yochanan versus Reish Lakish on the bottom half of Tes Zayin Omid Beis. The status of one who makes himself a Nazir in a situation that he's already Tameh, he is Bebeis HaKvaros. So Rav Yochanan says the Naziris is Chal, Reish Lakish says it is not Chal. Rav Yochanan said it is Chal as the fact that it's just going to be hanging, and the moment he walks out, boom, he becomes a Nazir. Reish Lakish says no, it is not Chal, and the only way it's going to work is if he says again that he's accepting upon himself as Naziris. Without that, he'll not accept upon himself. And we continue with, we're about 6 lines to the bottom, says the Gemara, Esvei. Continuing asking questions, this question is going to be on Reish Lakish, that says that the Naziris is not Chal, and if he wants to accept a new Naziris, he has to say such. Says the Gemara, Esvei, 6 lines to the bottom, Tezayin Medbeis, the first one of the line is Tama. Mi Shahaya Tame. Says Reish Lakish the following Brisa. Someone who is Tameh v'Nazar. And what happens? He says he shall be a Nazir. Says the Brisa, also legaleach lishtois yayin uletame lemesim. He's not allowed to do any of the entities of Naziros, to be mitame, drink wine, or take a haircut. And, continues the Brisa, v'im gilach v'shasei yayin v'lemesim, if he does any of those 3, what's the halacha? He gets Malchus. So now the Gemara articulates the question on Reish Lakish. If you're going to tell me Chaylak like Rav Yochanan, I know time in the savings everybody might understand that he gets a Malchus because the Naziris is Chal. So therefore, if he transgresses Naziris, he's going to get Malchus. Ella asked the Gemara according to Reish Lakish, in the last line, Tezayin Beis. According to Reish Lakish, what is the reason that there's going to be Malchus in this case? We turn over to Yud Zayin Amud Aleph and answers the Gemara. What are we talking about over here? We're talking about over here that he leaves and then he comes back in, and that is the reason why he's going to Nazir Bichal, even according to Reish Lakish, because he left the Beis HaKvaros. And the Mefarshim here explain that what exactly is going on is that the case is slightly different than we saw before. He's not actually Tameh in this case. Meaning, because then, according to Reish Lakish, there would be no Naziris Chal. As we've learned, he has to re-accept the Naziris. Rather, it says Taisus over here on the top, Taisus, that what's going on, says, there it is, says Taisus, what's going on is when he becomes Tahar, then he afterwards becomes Tameh. Is there going to be a new Malchus? So according to Rav Yochanan, we understood. According to Reish Lakish, we do not. Now the Gemara is answering, even according to Reish Lakish, the reason being he left, and then he comes back in. So Esvei asked the Gemara again in Kasha and Reish Lakish. Ein bein tamei she'nazir le'nazir tar. There is no difference between one who is tamei makes himself into a nazir, le'nazir tar, or one who is tar who became shenitma that becomes tamei. Ella, what's the only difference? Tamei she'nazar. If there's a tamei, one who is tamei that becomes a nazir, shvi shalai. Says the Brisa, the 7th day counts. The 7th day, as he's waiting to become tar, counts as part of his days of Naziris. Whereas if a Nazir tar, Shenetzo becomes Tameh, Ein Shvi Shalai, Oila Min Aminyin. The 7th day does not count. So now the Gemara articulates what the question in Reish Lakish is 5 lines down, Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. If you're going to tell me like Rav Yochanan that the Naziris is not Chal, excuse me, you tell me like Reish Lakish, that the Naziris is not Chal, what is the reason that the 7th day counts for his Naziris? He was Tameh and he never accepted upon himself a new Naziris. So rather, what does it sound like? It sounds very clearly that a Naziris that is made even while one is tamei, will affect the Nazirus, clearly similar to the opinion of Rav Yochanan and a kasha on Reish Lakish. Based off of this question, the Gemara does an about face. And 7 lines down, the first line is Min, Amar Mar Bar Avashi. Mar Bar Avashi comes along and retranslates the Machlekes Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish. This would be similar to the Gemara saying in Ella, meaning it's a new explanation. Mechal Kuli Amloi Pligi de Chaylo. Says Mar Bar Avashi. The Machlekes Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish was never whether it is Chal. Everyone agrees that what? The Nazirus is Chal. Eliki Pligi, what's the Machlekes? Lemalki. The Machlekes is only with regard to Malchus. Rav Yochanan Savar came in the Chayli Laki. Says Rav Yochanan, I don't understand. It's Chal, so there's Malchus. Very simple. V'reish Lakish Savar, no. Loi Laki, v'Chayla. Says Reish Lakish, an interesting middle ground. That is not going to be any Malchus, even though it's going to take effect. How exactly does this work? So Taisa explains, similar to being potter from the carbon, so too he'll be potter from Malchus. Based off of this explanation, Eisei Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish. This should hopefully sound familiar. Our Mishnah taught us if someone becomes a Nazir while he's in the cemetery, even if he's there for a full 30 days, it does not count for his Naziras, and he cannot, he doesn't have to bring the karbanos. So what's the obvious implication? Says Rav Yochanan to Reish Lakish, Karban Tomo D'loi Ma'isi. Only with regard to karbanos he doesn't have to bring. Malka Laki Alei. But it sounds like very clearly you'll get Malchus. How could you Reish Lakish hold that there is no Malchus? Answers the Gemara, responds Reish Lakish about 15 lines down. The first word line is Malki Laki. Bedenu delisni einai loika. Says Reish Lakish, really? The Mishnah should have said einai loika. So why does it say loika? El Misham, the Kabbalah missed the Seifa. The Seifa had to say that what? If Yoitze v'nichnas, if he leaves the cemetery, and then he goes back in, then what? It counts for the days of his Naziris. Maybe carbon toma, and he brings a carbon. So therefore, Tani Reisha Einai maybe carbon. Meaning, the reason why the Mishnah hones in on carbon is not in exclusion to Malchus. It is not a good deal. It honed in on carbon for a second reason, that what? Tana Reisha Einai maybe carbon toma, but in reality there will not be Malchus, says Reish Lakish, just like there's no carbon toma. Don't ask me from the diak in the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, Tashema. Okay, so the Kash and Reish Lakish didn't work, but let's bring a raya to Rav Yochanan. Says the Brisa in Bein Tamei Nazir leNazir Tar Shenitma. This is the Brisa we quoted on the top of the Amma. There's no difference between someone that is Tamei that becomes a Nazir, someone that's Tar that becomes Tamei. Elisha Tamei Nazir Shvish La'ila Min HaMinyan. The 7th day count, whereas v'Nazir Tar Shenitma in Shvish La'ila Min HaMinyan. So the Brisa seemingly is saying that what is the one difference, whether day 7 counts or not? But the obvious implication of the Brisa, 15 lines to the bottom of the Amma, the first one line is Min HaMinyan, is what? Hale Malchus. When it comes to Malchus, Zev is Shavin. Seems like there is no difference, that in both cases, you're chayiv, a clear raya to Rav Yochanan, that even if someone who is Tamei accepts upon himself Naziris and becomes Tamei further, he'll have Malchus. Amar le, Reish Lakish again says, no raya. Loi, that's not the diak. You're being medayek that the only difference is whether the 7th day counts, whereas with regard to Malchus, they both get Malchus. Says Rav Lakish, no. I'll tell you that with regard to getting a haircut, with regard to drinking wine, that's when they're both equal. But with regard to Malchus, no, they're not the same. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Avalini Malchus Mai, Reish Lakish. So what are you going to say? That with regard to Malchus, what's the halacha? So you, Reish Lakish, are suggesting that there is a difference. So therefore, listen now you. So why did the Brisa not list that difference? Why did the Brisa only list the difference whether day 7 counts? Why does it also list a difference with regard to Malkus? Answers Reish Lakish b'tekante ka'mayre belkalkule loy ka'mayri. The Brisa is talking about establishing the Naziris, counting. Is this day count or not? But it's not telling us the dinim per se about the kilkul, what the einesh, what the avera that he did was. So holds Reish Lakish's own that this Brisa is not a raya to Rav Yochanan. So Tashema, one final kasha on Reish Lakish. 10 lines to the bottom. The first one line is me. Shaya Tamei v'Nazar. Someone who's Tamei, he says he wants to be a Nazir. Says the Brisa, also legalech l'shas yain, he cannot take a haircut and drink wine. Vim gilach v'shas yain. If he does, v'nit v'lemesim. What's the halacha? A clear Brisa that has no wiggle room at all. To Yofda, and therefore says the Gemara, this is a clear kasha on Reish Lakish. There's no way to change this. It's not from a diuk. It's absolutely explicit that he was Tamei. He became a Nazir. Not only does it say it's forbidden, it also says there's Malkus. And thereby do we ask and slug up Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, 5 lines from the bottom. Let's begin a new topic. It's not a new topic. It's a first cousin to that which we are talking about. Ba'i Rava asks Rava, Nazir, v'hu bebeis akvaris. Now, what is the status of a Nazir while he is in a cemetery? Ba'i shehia lemalkos oiloi. Does he have to, if he lingers there, is that the necessary condition for malkos or not? Now, the basic premise of this question, we peek down at the bottom, second to last Rashi, 4 lines to the bottom. Of course, it's not Rashi, it's the Rivan. Ba'ishila Malkus. Says the Rivan, is it only going to be Malkus if he hangs out there long enough for the Shir Vishtachavaya, as we saw the Gemara in Shvus, Paragidiyos, Ha-Toma, that if someone is in the Beis HaMikdash, and then he becomes Tamei, what is the status? He only is going to be Chayiv if he hangs out there, he lingers. If he right away leaves, he's fine. But if he hangs out there the amount of time of Vishtachavaya, the amount of time to prostrate himself, then it's Allah L'Moshe Messina that teaches us that is when he gets Malkus. So asks Rava, is the Nazir the same status? He's in a Beis HaKvaros. He says he wants to be a Nazir. So if he lingers, is that when he's Chayim Malkus or not? So explains the Gemara 3 lines from the bottom. Dami, what's the case? If the case is Damile Tinzar, if the case is someone says he wants to be a Nazir while he's in a basic Varsa cemetery. But before he said this, we said, don't say that. Da'amri loy tinzar. Do not make such a Nazir. Salam ali shehiyah. So why are we saying that he has to wait to be chayiv right away? We told him not to do it. He did it right away. He should be chayiv imalkos. Nazir my time loy ba'i shehiyah. So explains the Gemara, why does a Nazir, a regular Nazir that enters into Beis HaKvaros and becomes Tamei, is he have to wait there a few moments to be Chayiv Malkus? No. Boom, the moment he walks into Beis HaKvaros, a Nazir is Chayiv Malkus. What's the reason for that? On the last line, Yazayin Amud Aleph. The reason is to come Asri Bey, because we give him Asra. We warn him, don't go into the cemetery. If he does, boom, he gets Malkus. So Hachanami, so too in this case, Kamasri Bey, if we warn him and he doesn't listen to us and he says he wants to be an Nazir while he's in a Beis HaKvaros, right away he should be Chayiv Malkus. He should definitely not have to hang out there in order to be Chayiv. So we turn over to Yitzayin Amud Beis and explains the Gemara, you're right. Ella, you know what the case is? Kegohin she'nech tlas b'shida tevo migdal. The classical, not so classic, but we have this in many times in Shas, and we're trying to figure out in the rules of Tumah V'Taira how to get someone into an area without him being over on his entering. So says the Gemara that he entered into the Beis HaKvaros in a Shida, Teva, Umigdal, in a carriage, a trunk, or a closet. Basically, he's in some sort of box, and he's carried into the Beis HaKvaros. The box is an oil on top of him, and therefore, when he enters, he doesn't get Malkus. Uba Chaveira, and his friend comes, Upara me alav ma'aziva. and his friend comes and removes part of the bottom of the box, pulls it out from underneath him, now he's automatically in a Beis HaKvaros. So now the Gemara articulates what the question is. So in that case, is he going to be chayiv right away? Or no, is he only chayiv if he hangs out there, if he's shahaya there, if he lingers there, or not? So we have a scenario that he could get in without the warning, and now, boom, all of a sudden the bottom of his box is pulled out, and he's in a Beis HaKvaros. If he leaves right away, does he get malchus or not? Is he only get malchus if he hangs out or not? So now the Gemara explains 2 lines down. Ki gamrina shehiyah bebeis hamikdash. Is this whole din of shehiyah only in the Beis Hamikdash? Avol bavroi loi. But outside of the Beis Hamikdash, we don't apply such halacha with regard to naziros. And therefore, if he leaves right away, fine. But if he doesn't leave right away, boom, immediately he's going to be chayim malchus. Or maybe the same halacha by Beis Hamikdash will apply to Nazir. Answers the Gemara, Teku, we got to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi for this one. We continue, Bayi Ravashi, 4 lines down, with a similar shayla. Nazar v'hu bebeis hakvaros to'in giluach oiloi. The similar case only becomes a Nazir while he's in a cemetery. Does he have to shave his head, which is usually the halacha that happens when a Nazir becomes tamei, or not? And the Gemara explains, Ki by tiglachas, is it only by tahar shenitma when someone who's tahar becomes tamei to come at tamei nazirusei? Because he was a Nazir and became Tamei. Avol Tamei shen Nazar. But someone that's Tamei that becomes a Nazir Lai, or maybe there's no difference. Says the Gemara, Tashema, let's bring a raya from our Mishnah. Mi shen Nazir vu beis hakvaros aviloi yisham shleishim yaim. Someone becomes a Nazir while he's in the cemetery, said our Mishnah, even if he's there for 30 days, he doesn't count. Maybe karban toma. So as we learned in Amman Aleph, a similar diuk says the Gemara karban toma delay ma'isi. Only he doesn't have to bring the karban aval giluach bai, but seemingly he would have to shave his head. So we have a raya from the Mishnah that if someone becomes a Nazir while he's in a Beis HaKvaros, it's the same thing as becoming tamei while he's a Nazir and he has to shave his head. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Ma tam ka'amar. Says the Gemara, no. You know how you read the Mishnah, and the Mishnah is giving you the reason. Ma tam einai mevi karban toma. You know why you don't have to bring a karban? Misham delabayi giluach. Meaning, giluach is intrinsic, it holds the hand of karban. So just like you don't have to bring a karban toma, so too, you would not have to shave his head, so we do not have a raya from the Mishnah. So Tashema, about 20 lines down, first one line is Bayi Giluach. The Gemara attempts another raya from a Braisa. Ein bein tamei Nazir le Nazir tar shenitma. All the same Braisa we had on Amman Aleph, there's no difference between someone who's tamei that becomes a Nazir, or someone who's tar that becomes tamei. Ela tamei Nazir shvi shaloi. The 7th day eliminated minion counts in Nazir tar shenitma. Ein shvi shaloi eliminated minion. So says the Gemara, my love. What would it be infer? Which is very similar to what we said in Amman Aleph, just this was the dichui, now it's the raya, that with regard to shaving, they're the same thing. Says Gemara, loy, halamalkus, zev is shavin, so you can't bring a raya. So ask the Gemara the same kasha, what's his word with tiglachas? Zev migalech, this one shaves it, zev zeina migalech, lisnaya. So why does the Braisa not list such? Answers the Gemara, Tani Shavi Shalai V'chol Mili. When the Braisa says the 7th day, this refers to all halachas that are dependent on the 7th day of Tahira, which one of them is Giluach. So again, it is Nichlal, it is included in the Braisa, even without saying it explicitly. So one more, Tashema, let's show one more raya for the day. About 20 lines to the end of the Amid, Tashema, first 2 words on the line, Yudzayin Amid base. Tashema, says the Gemara, quoting a Braisa, Ein li aliyimei tamasai, shein oilanai, min aminyin. Says the Braisa, based on the pasuk in Bamidbar, that what is the story if a Nazir becomes tamei? A Nazir touches a mace. The halacha is whatever he counted is out the window and he has to start again. So certainly the days that he counts when he is tamei would seemingly not be included. So says the Braisa, the Nazir days, we only know the Yemei Tama'asai are what? Those days, the days that he's tamei for touching the mace, touching the corpse, do not count for his Nazirus. What about the days of confirmed? This is talking about saras. Let's say there's two types of ras. There's muskar and mukhlat. First he's locked up, but then the kohen pronounces that he is a mitzayra. So the days that they say he's a mukhlat, he has to wait outside the camp, are those days also not counted toward his Nazirus. Says the Brisa, V'denu, I'll tell you a kal v'chaymer. Ma yemei tamasa migaleach umevi carbon. Says the Brisa, just like the days of Tama, he shaves his head and he brings a carbon. Af yemei chaluta migalech umevi carbon. They're very similar halachas. The halacha to get out of a mitzayra, to be pure from saras, and the halacha to end you off your nazirus is very similar. So just like one you shave and you bring a carbon, so too over here. So says the Brisa, just like the days that he's tamei for touching the mace do not count for his nazirus. So to the days that he is machlet, the days that the kohen pronounces that he is a mitzayra, also should not count. That is the kal v'chaymer that the Brisa wants to bring. Says the Gemara interrupts her. Lie. It's not a good comparison. When it comes to the fact that he's tamishkin mevatel b'henes ha'koidmin. What's the halacha if a Nazir touches a corpse? Let's say he was a 30-day Nazir, and on day 15 he becomes tamei. All the preceding days are but. He needs to do 30-day Naziris. Lefikach, maybe that's the reason why you know the lamin aminyan. Whereas Taimir b'mei chalutai, what's the status of a mitzayra? Sheinoi mevatel ha'koidmin. It does not mess up the previous days. So says the Gemara, you can't bring me a raya, and therefore lefikach maybe oilalai min aminyin. So you can't bring me a raya from a kal v'chaymer because the two are not comparable. You cannot compare a Nazir to a mitzayra mukhlat. So says the Gemara, Amre, you'll tell me, Yoma Nazir bekever. Just like a Nazir, if he becomes tummy while he's in a cemetery, he becomes tummy going into a kever, a cemetery. Even though he has hair. So he should shave his head right now because he becomes tamei. Still, what's the halacha? The days of Tama do not count. Yemei chaluta she'ein raya l'tiglachas like kol shekein she'ein oilam min aminyan. It should be the same halacha. So says the Gemara. Seemingly, we could compare the two. Now, what exactly is the difference in these two kal v'chaymers is a little bit difficult. But let's leave it at that. So says the Brisa that what is the story that a person becomes a Nazir? And it said, what was the Lashon HaBraisa? That his hair, his sar, is uroi l'tiglachas. And now the Gemara articulates the Raya, and with this we conclude, my love tiglachas toma. Does the Brisa not mean that he becomes tiglachas for toma? So what do we see? We see that if someone is a Nazir, becomes a Nazir in the Beis HaKvaros, he has to shave his head. So now we have a teretz to Rav Ashi Shaila. Boy, Rav Ashi, if someone becomes a Nazir when he's in a basic var, says he have to shave his head. From the wording within this Brisa, this comparison of a Nazir and a basic var, he's to a Mitzayr Mukhlat, he called him one that is Roi Litiglachas. Seemingly he has to shave his head. Answers the Gemara, Lo Raya, Loi Tiglachas Tahira. You know what it means? It means it refers to shaving your head at the end of the Nazirus, not if he becomes a Nazir in that actual state. Tomorrow we'll pick up from here, which will bring a Raya and Bistavra to this, but we'll leave that for the next year. Daf Yomi B'siyata Dishmayo.